Don't do Disney
without us.
My name is Daniel.
And my name is Zach.
And welcome back to our show. This is our old Disney podcast that we like to do where we talk about all things Disney, including the parks, the movies, Disney,
not the sports.
Disney Plus, everything except the sports, pretty much. And of course,
we really should script that intro.
We should, but not right now. But hey, this weekend was the D23 weekend. We delayed recording for a week so that we would be able to give you a fresh take on D23. At least that's the story we're going to stick to.
Although, it's not going to be much other than the parks today.
That's true. Well, that's because we watched the Parks channel, and let's be honest, that's kind of our jam, right? We're parks people. That's what we like.
But there is lots of fun stuff coming to Disney Plus.
Oh yeah. Yeah, Disney Plus is awesome. And for those of you like us that joined on the D23 Gold plan with that 3-year sweetheart deal, that's going to expire in November. So
now we have to actually, pay for it.
I still feel like the yearly deal still works out to like under $6 a month, and it's a really good deal if you buy Disney Plus by the year. Anyway, not important. What is important is the D23 Parks panel, which happened today. We took some notes of the things that happened. We watched this presentation, and we have some thoughts. So let's start with the presentation overall without any specifics whatsoever. What did you think of the Disney Parks panel?
I had asked earlier in the year if we wanted to go to D23.
Yes.
And you had said no. Specifically because you didn't think that it was going to be a big year for announcements. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that really kind of held true. There were 1 or 2 really big things that were announced, but the rest were really small items.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, a lot of it didn't really excite me. I didn't come out of this going like, oh, some of that's really cool. I mean, you asked me immediately afterwards what my most favorite thing out of the panel was, and I couldn't really name anything.
I guess my disappointment with it was the pacing of it. It was
really disjointed.
Well, it was over 100 minutes long, and we spent the first 20 minutes without really any announcements about anything, just kind of talking a bit.
I saw on Twitter, Jack from DSNY Newscast was like at the halfway point. He's like, there's a lot of filler. And I'm like, I agree.
Yeah, there was a lot of filler and musical numbers, which probably played well to that show. Now, even though neither of us have ever been to a D23 before, we have been to BlizzCon numerous times, and that happens in the same venue, the Anaheim Convention Center. So we are very familiar with that main stage room where they do that's where the parks panel was held. It is a cavernous, huge room with multiple seating sections. And to be honest, unless you are someone who camped out the night before, you're going to be sitting in a chair looking up at a television monitor. And off way in the distance, you might see a little
speck that is Josh Tomorrow on stage.
A little figure up on stage, but you're primarily going to be watching via the video monitors there. So very similar to the experience that you have watching on YouTube as they live stream it. So let's cover really quickly what the announcements were, and then we can dive kind of into which ones we think were good, which ones we think were bad, that kind of a thing. So we'll just break this out by the very first announcement happened within the first couple of minutes of the presentation, and that was that Happily Ever After is returning to the Magic Kingdom in Florida. A lot of people were very happy about this. I was not. What was your feelings on Happily Ever After?
I like Happily Ever After as a show.
Oh, wait.
Go ahead.
I need to qualify this. I loved Happily Ever After. Happily Ever After, loved that fireworks show. Absolutely loved it. Will I go and see it when it returns? I absolutely will. I just feel like it's a step backwards to go back to an old show instead of making a new show. But go ahead.
Well, that's what it was. When we went to see it for the first time after it came back after the closures, I cried.
Yeah.
Enchantment has been a misfire. It hasn't played well with a lot of people, at least on the internet. I still think it's a good show. I don't think it's as good as Happily Ever After, but I don't think it's so bad that you immediately go back to its predecessor. I feel like for a company that is talking about, no boundaries, constantly moving forward, that bringing back Happily Ever After is the antithesis of that.
I feel like we run into this very dangerous territory when we talk about agreement on shows. There's a very real feeling, I guess, on some of the more vocal social media platforms. You will see things that start with the following sentence: "I think we can all agree ... what that this is the best or that is the best." And all I have to say to that is Pippin, the musical Pippin.
What about it?
People love that show. I think it's a piece of crap. It's like there are just like people have different tastes in shows, and just because you didn't like Enchantment as much as you liked Happily Ever After doesn't mean that there aren't people out there that did, enjoy Enchantment more than Happily Ever After. So it's a very difficult balance to compare shows against each other, because all you have to go on is your own personal view of this particular show.
Right. But
And
Disney
whether you
does,
like it or not.
they have data points. They
Yeah.
put out surveys. It's like if a majority of the guests, at least the ones who fill out the surveys, don't like a show, they probably will axe it and do something else.
Okay. But I feel that going back to an old show instead of developing a new show is where the mistake lies. I would much rather see a new show than see an old show. Unless, here's the caveat, unless it is a limited run, like we're bringing back Happily Ever After.
While we tool
yeah.
around and make a new show.
While we come up with a new show, kind of a thing like that. But we didn't get a lot more information other than, it's coming back.
It's coming back next year. They didn't even really give us a firm time frame other than next year.
Right. So here we're going to break these down by parks. So the Disneyland stuff was first.
If you are a Disneyland person, this was the panel for you.
Here's all the things that are happening at Disneyland, and then we'll talk about them. All right. So there is a Mandalorian meet and greet happening in Galaxy's Edge. That will happen sometime next year. There is a Hulk meet and greet happening at Adventures Campus. That starts happening next week. There is a new e-ticket attraction coming to the Adventures Campus.
But
which
not
is
the one you think.
Yeah, not the Quinjet one. This one is based off of the multiverse. It looks like a multiverse dark ride of some type. But that is coming. I don't believe they gave a launch date on that. Big Hero 6 retheme of the wharf over at DCA. So they're going to retheme the wharf area to be San Francisco. It's hard to say. From Big Hero 6. And they're going to retheme the Paradise Pier Hotel to be the Pixar Place Hotel. So they're going to completely redo the theming of that Paradise Pier Hotel to be in line with Pixar. Downtown Disney is getting multiple new restaurants and stores coming to it.
Including, what was it, a Portos?
Portos, some bakery that's a West Coast thing that we know nothing about. And if you were at D23, you got some sampling of the food, I guess. And Run Disney is coming back to the West Coast. So there will be a Run Disney event in 2024 at Disneyland. Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway, difficult to say, as well as the Toontown remodel or reimagining that is happening over there right now, will open sometime in 2023. And then finally, Tiana's Bayou Adventure, the retheming of Splash Mountain, will happen in 2024. Those are the things that were announced for Disneyland in the first part of the show. Of those things, are there any of them that excite you? We had planned on going to Disneyland. Or is there any things that you're like, ooh, I will look forward to that?
I would like to see the Avengers Campus since, the West Coast parks can use the Avengers. I like Big Hero 6 as a movie. I think I've only ever seen it once, but I liked it. So I will be interested to see that area rethemed. Other than that, Disneyland is not my home park, so I don't really have a whole lot of feelings about a lot of those. And they were all, again, I feel like other than the e-ticket, they were all really small updates, other than retheming the wharf, I guess, as well, and the hotel. But Disneyland has needed some help for a while, and they haven't had a whole lot of big things other than Adventures Campus that I can think of in the past several years. So
yeah, I think that the things that would affect our trip, like within the next year or so, would basically be Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway and Toontown. And we have Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway here, so that's not new to us. Any of the other things are kind of out past that time period. Like we wouldn't be basing a trip on it next year, other than the Hulk meet and greet, which I thought was very interesting. I thought the I wondered that the other day because I really am enjoying She-Hulk on Disney Plus. And I'm like, oh, could they bring She-Hulk to the Avengers campus? Because she's supposed to be 7 foot tall and green. And how do you do that in a park? And I thought they very cleverly did this by having a puppet-like suit put over someone. But if you've ever seen some of the Imagineering stories on Disney Plus and everything, they've been working on those Hulk hands, those bigger than life hands, which are controlled by gloves so that they are fully articulated by the puppeteer inside, so that the Hulk fingers can move and grab and do things. And I thought they very cleverly covered up the fact that the mouth doesn't match the voice because he's got on his in-game quantum thing which covers his mouth. So you can see the Hulk face inside there, but it is a 7 foot tall, very large Hulk creature standing there in your meet and greet, and that looks kind of cool. The thing I'm most excited about is the Run Disney returning to Disneyland, only because I have just very recently signed up for a Run Disney event, and I'm going to do my very first one here at Walt Disney World. And so far, it seems like I'm going to enjoy it. I'm enjoying training for it, so I'm like, ooh, that would be fun to run through Disneyland and Disney California Adventure. So that's something to look forward to there. Other than that, not too much.
I'm excited about Tiana's Bayou Adventure, but that's on both coasts.
It is, and that's 2024. That's not something that's going to happen next year, and we would see it here as well. I feel that the things that were mentioned during the last part of the show, just real quickly, Magic Happens is coming back. So that parade is coming back. I'm excited about that because I always wanted to see
that thing got to run for 10 days before the parks closed?
Yeah, I've seen it on YouTube, but I'd like to see that in person. Also, a new World of Color overlay is coming called World of Color 1. So a new nighttime show coming over to Disney California Adventure. So those are the things at Disneyland.
Oh, no. The Disneyland Resort Fireworks show that they did the theme song for.
Oh, yeah. It was a horrible song. Why do they get a new fireworks show and we have to go back to Happily Ever After? Again, I loved Happily Ever After.
But that's not true, because the next thing on the list is a brand new nighttime show at Epcot.
Yeah, a brand new nighttime show at Epcot. So now let's move our attention to Walt Disney World, our home park. Epcot is getting a new nighttime show.
And note that Happily Ever After, just real quick, was stated to be part of an updated show at the Magic Kingdom. So I don't know if they're bringing back the 2019 version or if it's going to be reimagined a little bit as well.
There will be some reimagining because the hardware is no longer in place. So the projectors that they use for Happily Ever After are no longer there. They now have much higher resolution projectors. So, they're going to redo at least re-render the graphics that they were doing for the castle projections. And maybe it'll look great. I thought the old show looked great. Anyway, new nighttime show at Epcot that will be replacing Harmonious. No specific date to that.
Either temporarily or permanently. They said it was for the 100th anniversary of the Walt Disney Company. They did not specify whether it was a permanent replacement or a temporary
did they say it was for the 40th anniversary of
they
Epcot?
Said it's for the 100th anniversary of the company.
So the Epcot nighttime show. I feel like, and this is my own, well, let me get through it and then we'll go back to that. Journey in Water has an opening date now, late 2023. That's as specific as they're going to get.
Not just Journey of Water. The entire spine of Epcot will be done late 2023.
Late 2023. We will no longer have those construction fences up blocking our egress into Epcot. They announced a new meet and greet with a certain purple little dragon named Figment.
Now, that's not really new, because didn't they have a Figment meet and greet for years?
So they've had 2 Figment meet and greet, and both of them were very limited time. The first one was an actual puppet on Dreamfinder's hand. So the person that was the face character playing Dreamfinder would also talk as Figment and move his mouth. Because he was a puppet. And then they had a life-size Barney the Dinosaur style Figment suit. What I'm really hoping for here, because they say that they are working on imagining this, is like, I feel like robotics and whatnot have progressed to a point. I don't know if you saw the panel, you saw that there was a Grogu next to the Mandalorian that was remotely controlled puppet that had, full articulated stuff. Right. I feel like maybe that's going to be the Figment meet and imagine walking into a room like you did with BB-8 and seeing Figment sitting on a pedestal that is a fully articulated, someone is remotely puppeteering him and he can react and interact with you. That would be cool. That would be really cool to me. So a Figment meet and greet. The Hatbox Ghost, which was only in the Haunted Mansion on Disneyland, will be coming to the Haunted Mansion in Disney World.
Which makes sense because we get a ton of Hatbox Ghost merchandise here, and we don't have a Hatbox Ghost, but soon we will.
Yeah, there was a Magic Plus band or a Magic Plus band that had the Hatbox Ghost on it.
You mean a Magic Band Plus?
Yeah, that thing. And that big, ugly thing. And I was like, oh, we don't have the Hatbox Ghost. And then finally, we have an opening date for Tron, which will be...
we have an opening season for Tron.
Well, again, the most specific dates they ever gave were a year early, late spring. With spring of 2023 is when Tron is going to be opening, which means, if past is prologue, that we will have pass holder previews in early 2023, probably, February-ish.
Yes. Now, cool. I have not watched any ride-throughs. Do you think I can handle Tron?
You would have to watch a YouTube video. I don't believe it does not make any inversions because you're not strapped in, so there are no loop-de-loops or anything. We'll have to take a look at the...
I just remember Guardians and how that made me feel, and I don't ever want to feel that way again.
Yeah,
so
this doesn't swivel in the same way. All right, those are the things that are happening at Walt Disney World. Doesn't sound like you're really super excited about any of them.
I am tentatively excited about the new show at Epcot, but I'm also sad. And you might call this a little bit of, hypocrisy on my part because I love Harmonious and I don't want to see Harmonious go away.
Yeah.
But again, they should be creating and making new shows.
New things.
But,
always making new things.
So I don't know.
I
don't know how I feel about that one because I love Harmonious, but I also loved Epcot Forever. And I love Harmonious after Epcot Forever, so maybe they'll just continue this trend of having really good fireworks shows, except for the one that Epcot Forever replaced.
I feel like there's a blueprint for this at Disney's California Adventure, which is World of Color. They regularly change World of Color and call it something else. So it's World of Color something. World of Color something. So it becomes like a platform for a nighttime show. It's always called World of Color, but it has a theme to it. It's a new show. As the few times that I have been to Disneyland, I've seen a different version of World of Color, at least 3 different versions of World of Color in the times that I've gone there. I feel like there's a template that can be used for Epcot where it just becomes Harmonious Disney 100 Years or something like that, where we keep the barges and all the technology of the lights and the fireworks.
To the chagrin of everyone who hates the barges.
To everyone that hates the barges, which again is not everyone. It's just certain people. I don't hate the barges. They don't bother me at all. The point is that I feel like you could do that with without losing the advancements that we've made on Harmonious. You could indeed make new shows around that same kind of platform like they do with World of Color in California. So that's kind of what I'm hoping for.
I'm also excited for the Figment meet and greet, but I would have preferred a refresh of Journey into Imagination because that ride needs it very, very, very badly.
You would need a corporate sponsor for that, or you'd have to have Disney willing to make that investment right now. And coming out of this economically troubled time, I don't think they're yet ready to make that kind of level investment into a new thing. The things that we didn't hear about for Walt Disney World are any kind of mention of the Spaceship Earth refurbishment.
Mary Poppins, which is odd considering Bob Chapek just name dropped it in an interview a few weeks ago.
We have no idea about the opening date of Fantasmic. What?
Battery.
Keep going. We had no opening date for Fantasmic yet.
Which is odd considering they just talked about that too.
Yeah. So, a lot of things that they didn't really talk about, which is weird because they had over an hour and a half to tell us some of these things. And they chose instead to just kind of, I don't know,
ramble,
chew the fat with Jon Favreau. All right. Then going out to sea for the Disney Cruise Lines, a brand new ship was announced for 2024 called the Disney Treasure. It looks really cool. They made a big production about the new lobby area, which honestly looks a lot like the Wish. It's okay. It's a big lobby. It's beautiful, but I don't think that's groundbreaking or anything. But the Disney Treasure looked awesome. They are repositioning the Disney Wonder to do the first South Pacific tours that Disney is offering. So the Disney Wonder will be going to Australia, New Zealand, things in the South Pacific that I don't know at the moment. that I didn't write down other things that are in the South Pacific.
Australia and New Zealand were the two main ones.
Yeah. And we got a first look at Disney's new private island on Eleuthera, and a lot of concept art of what it might look like. Honestly, there's nothing really built there right now.
No.
It's just
they have not broke ground at all.
just Josh D'Amaro standing on an island, lonely by himself with a drone.
He's coming for Jeff Probst's job. That was a Survivor opening if I've ever seen one.
It was.
I am excited about the Australia and New Zealand cruises because we were briefly looking into possibly doing one of those.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but this is going to be Disney. They're going to be really expensive.
Yeah, well, we'll pony up for it at some point.
We'll see.
We keep wanting to go on another Disney cruise, but we also keep finding cruise lines that are comparable in terms of service.
Well, we're trying to find
but
one that's
cheaper.
comparable. Yeah. We're testing out Holland America in October. I mean, in November. We haven't found our cruise line yet. We tried Royal Caribbean. It's not as good as Disney, but maybe Holland America will be. So we'll see. We just got to find that right balance between the things that we enjoy doing on a cruise ship and the level of delicious food that you could get on a cruise ship without necessarily paying a full Disney price for a cruise ship. Over in Shanghai Disneyland, they are getting a new Zootopia land. We saw some concept art from that. We also saw they have a new villain spectacular over there. It's called Duffy and Friends, which is completely... They brought out one of the villains on stage, the new Fox Duffy. I'm not a Duffy person. I'm sorry.
That whole section I did not care one bit about.
So yeah, if you thought the Orlando parks, the Walt Disney World, I should stop saying Orlando. It's actually not in Orlando. The Lake Buena Vista parks, or if you thought that they were not getting a lot of things, the foreign parks are really not getting a lot of things. They're just kind of side mentions here. Hong Kong Disneyland is getting a new statue. It's kind of like the Roy Disney statue on the bench with Minnie at Magic Kingdom, except it's Walt on the bench with Mickey. So there's that. Also at Hong Kong Disneyland, they are getting a new Frozen area called World of Frozen, which looks like it might be similar to Frozen Ever After. It's like a dark ride based off Frozen.
That's a ride, not a land. They're getting a whole land, not just
World of Frozen at Hong Kong. No, I don't think Hong Kong's getting a whole land. These Paris and Tokyo are getting a whole land.
I'm pretty sure that's a whole land.
Okay. Well, our battery just went red, so now we really do have to wrap this up. Over at Disneyland Paris, they are getting a Frozen attraction, or a Frozen land, I guess. They're also getting a Tangled attraction on the pathway and the promenade going over to the new Frozen area. And they're also getting a retheming of one of their hotels. I did not catch which hotel it was, but one of their hotels is getting a new retheme. It's the one that's at the park entrance, which I don't know if that's called the Disneyland Hotel over there. I haven't been there yet. Haven't been to Disneyland Paris yet. Tokyo Disneyland is getting a new area over at Disneyland Sea that's going to include Frozen, Peter Pan, Tangled, and a new hotel. Not a lot of information on those other than mentions that they were going to be happening there. So that's it. That was what was mentioned at the parks panel. After that, they kind of went into a blue sky, and we're back. We had a camera malfunction there. For those of you listening on audio, this means nothing to you, but it does give me the opportunity to tell you, if you'd like to see the video version of this podcast, you can head over to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/WDW Aristocrats. That's where we post it. And if you're watching on the video version and you're someone who likes to commute and prefers audio-only versions of podcasts, then make sure you check us out. Don't do Disney without us. Anywhere where fine podcasts are served. There you go. Now, what were we talking about?
We were talking about the expansions and things that were announced for the foreign parks, and we had just finished Tokyo Disneyland.
Okay. I feel like we were about to talk about something, and then we didn't talk about something. Oh, I know what it was. The last part of the panel, they were talking about blue sky things that are on the horizon that they may have some concept art for or some ideas for, but nothing is ready to be announced as a potential opening date or things like that. So these are kind of teasers. I think it reinforces the fact that concept art is exactly that. It's not a promise to the to people that this is exactly what they're going to do. It's just concept art. It's a thing that gets Imagineers thinking about things.
Right. One of the artists on stage during this segment said as much. We create hundreds of pieces of concept art every year. Not all of them happen. Very few of them happen. It's our job. We create potential ideas.
And you have to remember the people that draw these concept arts are not necessarily engineers or experts on building codes and things like that. I bring this all up because there was a certain amount of
consternation.
There's a lot of consternation about the fact that the Tiana Bayou Adventure model that they now have, the 3D model that they had on display there, did not have a tree on top of it. And a lot of people were just assuming that it's, budget cuts and blah, blah, blah. You don't actually know that. It's probably more of an engineering problem to put a large tree up on top of that hill. I might remind you that there is a height restriction of 199 feet in the state of Florida. Anything over 199 feet has to have an airline light on it that is constantly blinking, which is why Cinderella Castle is at 199 feet and Expedition Everest is at 199 and a half feet. So they like to keep their buildings under 200 feet so they don't have to put big, ugly, blinking lights on the top of them. And it may just be that was the problem. The other thing I would like to point out about that concept art is that you can clearly see in the concept art Tiana and Lewis in a boat outside where the outside part of the attraction where the boats are going across. Did anyone ever think they were going to put an animatronic there? I mean, it's just concept art. It's to get the idea across, to tell the story of what the ride is going to be. All right. So the blue sky things that they did show us, if I can get off my little soapbox there, they showed us a possible expansion to or replacement of Dino Land in Animal Kingdom.
Yes, they showed two. The only thing that wasn't a concept in this point is that there is a refurbishment for Dino Land coming. They just have not settled on a theme.
Right.
Or two themes.
They're toying around with the ideas that we saw were Zootopia and Moana. So a kind of a Moana area and a Zootopia area, which...
Moana seems like an odd choice just because she's already at Epcot. Yeah. So maybe not Moana, maybe not Zootopia, maybe something else.
I did see a very prominent Disney vlogger downplay Zootopia and say that it was a miss. I looked it up. Zootopia is one of the top 5 grossing Disney animated films in the last decade. They made over $1 billion, so I would hardly call it a miss, whereas Moana only made $828 million. So Zootopia was a hit. It was over $1 billion. It's one of the top 6 of all time and one of the top 5 of the last 10 years. Regardless, we move over to the Magic Kingdom, which is something that was very exciting to me. They're talking about what could you imagine would be on the other side of Big Thunder Mountain. If you bring up a satellite view of the Magic Kingdom, you can see that there's quite a bit of land back behind Big Thunder Mountain in that area that they can expand into. I'm talking about the Florida park, obviously, not California. But they were talking about perhaps having the Casita from Encanto and a dark ride based on Coco and even maybe a villain's ride. So
just, again, concepts. And they showed a piece of art of all those things like intersecting. Mm-hmm. That would be a little odd to me just because the rest of the lands at the Magic Kingdom are one whole theme with everything kind of around it, and none of those things really fit in Frontierland if this would be an expansion of Frontierland. Mm-hmm. And all 3 of them really have nothing to do with each other, so I don't know that mashing them up like that would be a good idea. But again, we'll see if this happens, what they choose to go with. But the Magic Kingdom does need more land capacity, things to eat people.
Yeah. When you look at the attendance reports from the theme parks, Walt Disney World in Florida is always the highest attended theme park. I think the last count, 22 million visitors. And it's way ahead of number 2. Number 2 is only like 18 million. So no matter what, people are going to go to the Magic Kingdom. So expanding the footprint of the Magic Kingdom to allow for there to be more breathing room there is definitely something that would alleviate a lot of the big crowds that you see right now in the Magic Kingdom. Disney definitely does not have a demand problem. There is an extraordinary demand for
Right.
their
And
product.
Bob Chapek said as much in that
Yeah.
interview he gave like 2 days ago. It's
Yeah.
like the demand isn't letting up. And
Yeah.
demand is what is going to drive Disney doing anything.
So, and at the same time, but the supply of it, that's why we have large crowds. That's why we have, ever raising ticket prices and stuff, is to try to combat the attendance of the parks, to try to keep them at a manageable level so that guests have an enjoyable experience.
And
So-
yes, Nope, go ahead.
So by expanding Frontierland to twice its size, making more area and more dark rides that can eat customers, into lines and get them off the street is always a good thing. That it means that you can have the same number of people in the park, but it would feel less crowded.
Yes, this was something that I've seen bandied about a lot online today. Is Bob Chapek didn't address, nor did the interviewer he was talking to address, building more capacity,
Mhm.
which is honestly it's what's needed. But even then, if Bob Chapek were to announce new projects today, they wouldn't be built for several years,
Yeah.
pending another once in a century global pandemic.
But that's what these were. These blue sky concepts they were showing us was here's an expansion to the Magic Kingdom. Here's an expansion to Animal Kingdom. And when you look at satellite views on Google Maps, there's not a lot of room to expand Epcot or Hollywood Studios. Just the kinds of roads that hem those in are not the kind of roads that you can get rid of. Whereas the roads behind the Magic Kingdom that are directly behind Frontierland and the Magic Kingdom are service roads that are only for cast members, and those are roads that you could easily move back a little bit. It doesn't impact, World Drive. It doesn't impact the flow of traffic from the interstate coming in for guests and whatnot. So, but that is our thoughts on D23. And I would love to know what your thoughts, if you watched the Parks panel on D23, were. Leave them below in the comments if you're watching on YouTube, or if you're listening to our audio version of this show, you can always email us, don'tdodisney@gmail.com, or find us on any of the socials. We're on Twitter, Facebook, Insta.
TikTok, theoretically, I just
Places
have to
like
dredge
that.
up the information for it.
We'll put it down below in the doobly-doo. All right. I don't think we have time, and I know we didn't prepare for a hero and villain of the week.
No.
Yeah, so we're going to bypass that this week. No heroes and villains. And there you go. All that is left for me to do is to say to you, please, 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 don't do Disney
Without us.